You're listening to WooSox Insider, presented by your Worcester Red Sox.
Welcome back to WooSox Insider. We've had a little bit of a break here as we have tried to catch our breath as we started the season, but we are joined today in one of our suites here at Polar Park by none other than Tyler Murray. Tyler Murray is our broadcast play-by-play commentator. You can see him on Nesson and Nesson Plus. You can catch him in American East Hockey and a bunch of other things around the New England area. Anytime you flip on TV, I can hopefully hear the sultry tones of Tyler Murray's voice. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. This is cool, you guys. I was just saying before we got on air, with all due respect and love to our guys, TQ and DCAT, feels like you're leveling up this year, the WooSox Insider podcast. So thank you for having me.
We're doing our best, and once again, obviously here with our fearless producer, Dave Leonardi.
What up?
And but yeah, Tyler, thank you for joining us. We are in the midst of a double homestand. We had 13 games in 13 days. But not to diminish anything that the WooSox are doing here, how are your New York Knicks doing?
The first question is about the New York Knicks. This is huge. Wow. I'm totally unprepared for this. But no, this is the question I've been waiting to be asked my entire life. How will my basketball team do in the second round of the playoffs? Look, we're just happy to be here. That's entirely my attitude at the moment. But it's been fun. My wife and I, we actually traveled a little in the offseason. We saw them beat the Bulls twice in Chicago. They beat the Rockets in New York. And it was really weird. We didn't expect it to happen, but they beat the Celtics in Boston at a game that broadcasters Jim Kane and Cooper Boardman were at. Completely coincidental. All three of us were at the game in three different sections, and we all saw the same game. It was a crazy overtime finish. So,
and I'm assuming they put you on the board and fonted you and
one Knicks fan in building.
Yeah.
That was me. But yes, we're happy to be there, and happy for Jim. He gets to go to, I believe, Game 1 of Sixers Celtics on Monday. The schedule just works out perfectly. So for us, every game, if it's on a Monday, that works just fine.
Fantastic. So, where does your Knicks fandom start from? Where are you from, Tyler?
I'm from Connecticut.
Okay.
So you kind of get to pick and choose a little bit.
Sure.
And for me, everyone my age growing up was a Chicago Bulls fan because Michael Jordan. And it was just a smart thing to do because they always won. But the only team that could give the Bulls a test was the Knicks, and that was the local team that we got to watch when I was really young. So once Jordan retired in 98 for the second time out of 3, the next year was 99, and the Knicks, it was a lockout-shortened season, but they made it to the finals. They lost to the Spurs. But they're one of the few teams as an 8 seed to beat a 1 seed. And that was the Knicks beating the Heat in 5 games back then was the first-round series. So,
as we all remember.
Yeah, Larry Johnson had a 4-point play against the Pacers.
Of course.
Yeah, you know all this.
Larry Johnson's classic 4-point play.
Allen Houston, a buzzer beater against the Heat. So
yeah, I was totally alive for all of these moments.
You remember all this, 99. So, I mean, you get hooked, and then they don't go to the playoffs or win a playoff series again for another 13 years, and then not again until now. So here we are.
Here we are. And so switching over to the baseball side of things, before you joined us here at the WooSox, tell us a little bit about your trip to getting here, to getting to AAA, which we know is not going to be the end of the road for you here. We will see you in the big leagues someday. I think we all know that here in this building.
You never know, but that's very nice of you to say. But for me, coming up in the minors, I think every minor league broadcaster looked at the Pawtucket Red Sox and now the Worcester Red Sox as, if I can somehow find my way there, I'm doing something right. So you kind of work your whole career to be qualified for this job, let alone actually get it. So it was an incredible bit of news when Bill Wantless told me that I was going to be the guy. I did 4 years in single A in Florida, 6 years in double A in New Hampshire, and after my 6th year, they had kind of put me in a vice president role of communications and marketing in addition to broadcasting. And it was kind of a crossroads here. Do I want to be a front office guy full time and kind of build my career that way, or do I want to stick with radio and television broadcasting? And luckily, Bill helped make the decision for me. Josh Mauer went to the big leagues with the Brewers. It opened up, and of course I'm going to apply. So here I am, year, 12, 13 coming up now.
How was it going from, a single A team, and I know in double A up there in New Hampshire they have a beautiful ballpark in Manchester, but how was it going from single A and double A to then coming to a triple A ballpark such as Polar Park, where it's one of, if not the most expensive in triple A, and it's only its second season. I mean, was it like, whoa, was there like a wow factor when you first stepped into this building?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was a wow factor. What I try to tell people who maybe work here and haven't worked at other minor league ballparks is it's something you have to try to appreciate as often as you can. And it's difficult because we're here every day, and maybe you kind of get a little, maybe jaded is not the right word because it's impossible to be jaded at Polar Park, but this is as close to the big leagues as you can possibly get in terms of facilities, amenities, even the broadcast setup. And Dr. Charles and Larry Lucchino and everyone have done an amazing job with that. And we heard from a player last year, it was Taylor Cole actually, who spent a lot of time in the AL West. He didn't say what specific ballparks, but he said that Polar Park, behind the scenes and on the field, is better for players than even some of the ballparks he's been in the major leagues. And hearing that, kind of it all clicked. Yes, it's new. Yes, it's well supported. But for him to even compare it to some big league stadiums or ballparks and say it's even better, first of all, he's right. But second of all, it helps you really appreciate what we have here.
Yeah, and I think that, that's a big shout out to a former guest of WooSox Insider, Mario Oliveira, who's down in the clubhouse manager down there, and how well he treats all those players and how they're on top of everything there. And I love hearing those type of stories, and luckily for us, those aren't the first ones we've heard from players. From opposing teams to guys that are here every single day. We have Marcus Wilson come back this year, and the first day he's back, he has an Instagram post that just says home, and it's a picture of Polar Park, and you could just tell how much guys really do appreciate being here, and how we try our best to make it a big league show and a big league experience for them. On that same line, so give our viewers or listeners an insight on to what are the major differences you see from your side of things, from going from a single A team to a double A team, whether that is transportation to games, whether that's are you flying, are you taking the bus, are you taking your car, are you walking?
In single A, my mind goes to the food first, because in Daytona Beach, if I, the broadcaster, couldn't work a deal with the local Chili's or Popeyes to send us food in exchange for tickets, no one in the press box got to eat any food. We had to do media deals. We had to trade it out. Here, we're just treated to just such incredible pro sports catering work that they do. And it's something you kind of take for granted sometimes. So all the little extra things that are piled onto maybe one position definitely tend to add up and can affect this experience a little bit. Travel here in AAA, I didn't even know sleeper buses were actually a thing. I always got asked about this in AA. Hey, can we book a sleeper bus? Because I was also the travel secretary, another one of those hats you have to wear. And the answer was no. They cost 3 times as much as a regular bus at minimum. So I was like, are these things even real? But yes, sleeper buses exist, and they look like an actual tour bus. Like, it would be, I don't know, if Taylor Swift was going on tour, it feels like that would be the kind of vehicle she would use to go places. So I was impressed by that. And yes, there are flights for different faraway trips. And I had always heard it was kind of, cheapest flight, red eyes, overnight, the most miserable flying experience ever in AAA. But no, it's been pretty well handled. Shout out Carol. Shout out everyone who makes that happen. Scott Gallen, Nick Kutrara. So that's the long and short of it. It's just more people working and thinking about the little things that affect players' mentality. Are they going to be tired if we do this? Or are they going to have more energy if we do that? And they're making those right decisions to help the team win.
Yeah, and I think that's AAA baseball, or minor league baseball in general, has come a long way in just the past few years on, really trying to treat the players better. And I think that's a really good point that you just brought up. These are professional athletes trying to make their way to the big leagues, and if they are cramped on the back of what is essentially a school bus driving from Buffalo to Worcester to wake up the next morning to go, and you're aching and all this stuff, and you have to go out and go play, it just doesn't seem right. And a lot of these guys, like Ryan Fitzgerald, had to fight his way through independent baseball leagues, where independent baseball leagues, if you don't think minor leagues have a lot of money, independent leagues have no money when it comes to those type of things. So I think it's a really interesting perspective on that. And then on the other side of things, just the playing surface in the what the players have here at Polar Park comparative to, there's other most AAA parks have beautiful surfaces, playing surfaces, but as you go down, into AA, into single A, it's just naturally the fields are going to be slightly less than the upper level leagues. We have Elliot here, who is our head grounds crew, who is absolutely incredible.
Best.
So just from someone who has seen a bunch of different minor league ballparks and seen the playing surface and maybe heard from the players, how does this field compare to others?
This is the best minor league field I've seen, and it's not really close. It's not supposed to be this green this early in the season, especially in New England, right?
Yeah.
And we've had some interesting weather. It was really warm a couple of weeks ago. Now it's more typical of spring, and that's not easy to plan for or adjust to. So shout out Tarp crew, shout out Elliot, Ryan, everyone making it happen down on the field. But
award-winning grounds crew.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and deservedly so. I would go back to a year in AA when the single A ballpark, I'm not going to call them out, but someone came up from AA, and our field there was, kind of yellow, brownish, maybe light green. And then his question was, why don't you guys spray paint the field like we do in single A to make it look more green this time of year? And I'm like, what? Spray painting fields in single A to make it look a little better? So maybe that's a technique. It doesn't happen here, of course, but that the lengths he would go to try to make it seem passable, because you hear about it all off season, getting people excited for baseball, even when it's cold. What's exciting about baseball is that means green grass, blue skies, sunshine. That whole package equals why you're coming to Polar Park. So it's maybe something we don't think about, but it's such a huge part of why coming here is so fun, even in the early part of the year.
Now, obviously, you've been a broadcaster for years now, and you're obviously very comfortable on a microphone. But when you had first gotten to Polar Park last year, and it was your first time play-by-play on the broadcast for the WooSox, were you nervous at all, or
yeah.
what was the moment that kind of broke the tension when you were on air? Was it like a joke? Was it something funny that happened in the stands, or what got you into like the mojo of okay, like I'm here now?
Well, my father-in-law watches every game. Apparently, he's a diehard, so shout out to Wally and Braintree. But he texted me and said, I've been listening to you for years. You sound kind of nervous. I'm like, yeah, I a little bit was. I think we were on Big Nesson. We had just done like an hour pregame show interviewing a bunch of people on the field. So I'm guessing my mind was just wanting to make sure that got done. But the big moment I remember was Tristan Casas hit the longest home run of the year on opening day, and Jim Kane has a great call. And I remember saying, like, they're going to need a bigger ballpark for this guy. And then Jeff Castor comes in and says, yeah, I like what you said there. Yeah, they're going to need a bigger ballpark. That makes a lot of sense. And I'm like, good to meet you, Jeff Castor. Can't wait to be your best friend for the next couple of years. Love that guy. Thank you, Jeff, for all the support. But just to have like that big moment, Tristan Casas hitting a home run and getting to work with a great partner like Jim, it just helped settle me in. And I don't know, coming into the job knowing I would get to work with Jay Burnham and Mike Antonellis, who are guys I've looked up to for years, and then to be pleasantly surprised by having Jim and Cooper Boardman be just as incredible and just as supportive, that was a real point of comfort for me to get going.
Obviously, the Tristan Casas home run breaks the ice in Game 1 of your WooSox play-by-play career. So far, over the past, 1+ seasons, now we're in Season 2 of your tenure here. What is your favorite moment that you have called?
Well, I think maybe not because of something that I did, but because of how it unfolded. The no-hitter last year, I always get nervous when it's 7th or 8th inning and a no-hitter is possible because you're not supposed to do this, but I can't help but think about, okay, what am I going to say if they throw a no-hitter? Because if you say something dumb or get it wrong or no matter what happens, it's going to be replayed over and over and over again. It's a historic moment. We play it here on the video board before every game. And so, like, all right, well, I better say the right words. And that's not what you want to do as a broadcaster. You want to be natural. So big shout-out Devlin Granberg in left field because the final out of the game was a crazy diving catch. So instead of having to say, history has been made and this is special and listen to me say cool stuff, I just went, oh, wow, he caught that. No hitter. And it worked fine. So just the relief I felt of being able to react naturally instead of overthinking it. But, I've talked to other broadcasters. I think I may be unique in getting nervous during no-hitters. Everyone else seems to be excited because they want that big moment, and of course we all do. But it's one of those things you have to learn to not overthink things and just go with it naturally. So that was a good one.
So that's a really good point. We as New England sports fans, some of us, we have been blessed with a lot of really incredible moments that have been accompanied by some incredible calls. You go back to 2004, back to folk. Red Sox fans have longed to hear it. Mm-hmm. Those type of moments, obviously that's the World Series. Joe Castiglione is Joe Castiglione. Dave O'Brien with David Ortiz. You have every single time Don Orsillo opens his mouth. And just those classic moments, how much do you think, or maybe you've talked to other broadcasters about this, how much do you think that there is preparation in those moments for when you know you're going into the Red Sox are up 3-0 in the World Series? Do you think Joe Castiglione is sitting there jotting down notes saying, I think this is what I want to say?
I think in general, no, except when you have that long runway of a 3-0 lead for the Red Sox. I mean, can you believe it the way he said that? It's a few simple words, right? People say, can you believe it all the time? But it's the way he said that, it's just so iconic. And I don't think you can prepare. I'm gonna stress the you. No, I don't think you go that way. Sean Grandy, radio voice of the Celtics, told me once that he never tries to script calls. But the problem was when the Celtics won in 2008, they were up by like 40 in Game 6 over the Lakers. So he's sitting there having all kinds of time to come up with a call. But what happens is the ball is thrown in the air, and Cedric Maxwell winds up catching it on the sidelines. So if you go back and listen, the middle of Sean Grandy's call is him saying, Banner 17, blah, blah, and then, I got the ball. Great, I got the ball. I caught it. And that's his call. So Grandy is an awesome guy, and he's got a great sense of humor about it. But, I mean, his point was, why would I waste all that time preparing for that call when, it's just whatever happens naturally. And I think for Celtics fans, that kind of perfectly encapsulates that booth, Grandy and Max. One of the best ever to do play-by-play, and then the fun character that Cedric Maxwell is.
My favorite call is JRM is, here comes the pizza.
I don't think you can plan for those moments.
Exactly. We had the anniversary celebration of that a couple of weeks ago. So those are the best. And those are the ones you can't fake, right? Like, it's always cool when Jim and I get into laughing fits, and it's not like, hey, I'm going to tell this joke, so make sure you laugh. It's just like, we're having a good time, and people seem to respond pretty well to that.
Yeah, kind of like when earlier this homestand, when Cooper tried to be a hero and reach out for the foul ball that was probably no more than 40 feet away from him.
Yes.
Going down the line there.
I remember thinking that was the best part of the broadcast. And that was Jim saying to our producer, hey, can we pull that replay up? I didn't even notice Cooper reaching for it because it was so feeble. But the fact that Jim said, let's pull that up and put it on a replay, that's what's so great about working here. We're kind of not our own producers because we have a great crew in the back, but the sharing of ideas and willingness to say, yeah, let's show that replay of Cooper. And it turns out to be one of the highlights of that game. So
I knew that replay was coming up the second Cooper said, please don't show that replay.
Yeah. You don't
send it to the wrong people.
Do not ever say, please don't show
right after that, I heard Mike in the control room just say, hey, can we get that replay on blue?
Just pull that replay, yeah.
DeMars is not going to let you off the hook.
No.
That's a specialty.
And I think that's also kind of a fun thing is Dave and I are in the control room. We're in there. There's a million TVs. You can see every single camera angle, including the booth camera, which every once in a while I could just see you guys are just, the broadcast is showing the game on the field, and you two are in stitches behind the scenes, and you're holding cough buttons and making sure no one's here or whatever. And it's great to see you guys having a good time. But it also has to be a little unsettling knowing that at any time, Mike DeMars, Jacob Cohen, Ryan Sheehan last night directing
Great job.
TV, can flip over to the booth cam.
Yes.
How does that feel?
It is a little nerve-wracking, and Jim is the best at laughing silently. Like, he will put his head down and just gyrate, and I'm like, man, how does he laughing there without making noise? It's incredible. So you got to keep your composure there, which is, it's definitely a battle. But I've always Cooper and Jim and I have talked about, people, the shot from the broadcast booth where it's like a walk-off home run and you're looking at the broadcaster. I've always thought that, for me, that feels a little self-involved. So I've always wanted to do a video in the booth for me being like, ground ball to the shortstop and the throw is in time, and post it and be like, wow, really liked my call here. I don't know, dumb idea. But we do have to be ready. Hockey has trained me for this because we work with a lot of student broadcasters throughout Hockey East, and they do a really good job. Sometimes they will throw us up on camera without warning in the middle of a hockey game. So you always have to kind of pretend you're on just to be sure, because during a hockey game I'm kind of going crazy and yelling all the time and nonstop action. So you kind of have to be prepared. But luckily, in our booth here in Worcester, we're seated. We're usually upright. We're looking at the game. So there's hopefully no way to be caught unaware, I would say.
Yeah, and so I'm waiting for one day your Jack Edwards moment where you're standing up there and you're screaming during an American East game. You ever think you'll get to that point with hockey?
Rip the dagger and kill the beast, right?
Exactly.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Again,
those might be scripted.
I don't know. That's what makes Jack special. He had an amazing shorthanded goal call in Game 6 against the Panthers. But again, I don't know. The camera in booth, it's not. The whole thing for me is, and why I like this job instead of maybe being an in-the-field reporter, not a sideline reporter, that sounds fun, but, like a beat reporting journalist looking for answers and prying and things. We're just the background noise. We want to tell you all about these players. We want to tell their stories. We want to celebrate when they do well. We want to spin it positive when they don't do well. And to be just part of it but not the main attraction has always really appealed to me. So, yeah, I guess hopefully no booth shots in the future, but maybe that's just me.
When you're making a call, was there ever a moment, either last season or even this season? I know the season's, young so far, but have you ever had a moment where it was hard to keep your cool, like you were trying to fight back laughter or something and you had to try and just get the call out?
Laughter, it happens all the time, so nothing specific. Keeping your cool, when you said that, I thought of the Hockey East Championship. We do it on 850 EEI AM at TD Garden, which is one of the cooler things I get to do. And so we did 2 semifinal games, 1 championship game. So all 3 games went to overtime. Some were double overtime. And late goals to tie it, late goals to force overtime. So every single goal was huge, so I'm going kind of nuts. And after the second game, I was losing my voice, and it finished in double overtime. I gave it all I had, and okay, it sounded fine-ish. Then the next day I woke up, and I'm sounding hoarse, guys, okay? So who do I call? Tom Caron himself, TC, who's doing the TV broadcast. I say, I'm up a creek right now, man. I'm not going to sound anything like myself if I go in right now. He gave me these, like, Swedish lozenges. We can put it in the details of the podcast, perhaps. Yes. Maybe not. That's not a guarantee. Sorry. Did that a special tea?
Unpaid plug.
Yeah.
Unpaid plug.
Well, maybe we're making a bid here. I don't remember the name, so I'm not doing a very good job plugging. But we did a great broadcast that night. Thankfully, the school that I went to happened to win the championship, and in those moments, I kind of try really hard to be neutral instead of being like, "Oh, it's a BU kid happy about BU," because it's an 850. It's one of the biggest stations in the history of sports radio. So that was a moment where rein it in, be happy for the league having a great overtime finish, as opposed to, 10 years ago I'd be, doing cartwheels for my school.
So we've talked about, we just mentioned TC, who was in the building a couple nights ago.
We love TC. Shout out TC.
TC's great.
Shout out TC.
We've talked about TC. We've talked about Dave O'Brien, Joe Castiglione, Jerry Remy, all these legends of Boston sports, a commentator, play-by-play color. Who was someone, when you were growing up, was there a particular voice that you looked to that, because I know growing up when I heard Joe Buck's voice on a Fox broadcast and you hear the natural sounds of playoff baseball is so loud. Like, to me, that was like playoff baseball is here. And that's where, like, playoff baseball sits in my head. So did you have someone growing up that was, you could,
Yeah, I think Bob Costas is a guy who comes to mind. Even at the Olympics at the desk, Marv Albert, playoff basketball as well. And then those guys, as they kind of started retiring and doing less work, I think Sean McDonough is the guy who comes to mind for me, is more of a modern-day version of those guys. And it was at my wedding in 2017, my cousin, he was screaming into my ear because the music was playing loud, and he says, "I'm going to give you a great wedding present. I know Sean McDonough. I think he'd be a great guy for you to talk to. I'm like, I agree. What a great present. So like 2 weeks later, randomly, Sean McDonough calls me. I remember it was at 2 o'clock because we were supposed to send a press release out, a pretty big one for a Double-A team at 2 o'clock, and I totally bailed on it because Sean McDonough called. I got in a lot of trouble at work. I ran out to the parking lot, and I'm like, we have to hold off on this announcement about like having a bat dog or whatever the heck it was. And then we went outside, and then I'm like, hello, Sean McDonough, is it you? Wait, no, I didn't have the number at the time, so he called me and said, hey, it's Sean McDonough. So I ran out of the office while he was on the phone. Anyway, I'd only done women's hockey at that point, Double-A baseball, which was great, but I wasn't really there. And he said, I've heard your stuff. I think you have the potential to make it. Just keep working hard. And he could have been totally lying, and maybe he was. But he has stayed in touch with me and kept encouraging me. We got to meet him in person at a Red Sox game this past year because he calls a bunch of games. And I never would have known how much just a little vote of confidence from someone who's done it and been there. He called the World Series in his 20s. So that is something I always kind of look back on as, if he thinks you can do it, then why not have confidence in yourself, which can be hard sometimes in this industry.
Absolutely. And I mean, yeah, Sean McDonough, obviously, who's a former play-by-play for the Red Sox for a while. He was a Monday Night Football.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, you can't really get much bigger than Sean McDonough. And I have to say, he is such a unique voice, especially when he comes on WEEI and he calls Red Sox games, because I feel like it's not that he is not taking the moment seriously. I think that he has been, since he's been in such massive broadcasts and those type of things, that when he gets to call Red Sox game, he gets to be back in his comfortable spot. He has Joe Castiglione in stitches for the entire game. He has this incredible ability to call the game, make it entertaining, and make you, forget that, to a certain extent, forget that you're driving or forget that whatever you're doing in the moment as you're listening to him. And I just really appreciate that. And I really appreciate also, I feel as if you and Jim and Cooper have taken on that side of things, especially when we're at the AAA level of making this, it's entertainment. We are here to entertain. We are here to fill those spots that are, a little dull in a game. And I think that, Sean McDonough is obviously one of the best to do it. And I think our crew here is easily the best in AAA. I think there's no doubt there.
Patting our own back a little there.
Yeah, I mean, you always talk about how you listen to all other 29 AAA broadcasts all the time, so I totally believe you on that. But we talk about that Sean McDonough stuff often because I was in Single A doing games by myself. And looking back, it was, how am I going to fill this time? Let me read all these advanced stats over and over again. And just looking back, like, it wasn't entertaining. So telling stories, being honest. Sean McDonough's known for saying, this is taking too long. We need a pitch clock. And it showed up. And, okay, maybe some people get their feathers ruffled, but he turned out to be right. And I think just being honest, being yourself and authentic, it's not easy on air sometimes, but it's a big part of what makes the guys who are in the big leagues successful.
Yeah, and it is really a pleasure, though, to watch all of you guys work, and it's a pleasure to work with all of you. I feel... just again, we talked about Josh Mauer. Josh Mauer is up with the Brewers now.
Mike Monaco, another broadcaster we had in Pawtucket, that's gone up to the big leagues now.
Now we have our own Cooper Boardman doing pre- and post-game shows on WEEI for the Boston Red Sox.
Yes.
He's a Yankees fan.
And Cooper's also doing Westwood One Radio. He did the Big East Women's Championship this year and the Division II National Championship with former coach Tom Crean as his color guy. Cooper Boardman is a rocket launch right now. Anyway, yes.
I actually just wanted you to because we've had Cooper on a couple of times, I think. I went down to spring training with him.
He's been on this podcast twice before I've made my first appearance. It's all part of the trajectory.
There we go.
It's very impressive.
Here we go. You're probably going to get an MLB offer probably by the time this is posted on Monday, Dave.
Of course, Monday 8 a.m. It's
the missing link. Interesting. But yes, it's impressive. I think it goes back to Bill Wanless that somehow he just keeps finding incredible people.
The great Bill Wanless.
And I think what I found, the key to who Bill hires is he's listening to tapes. Can you say swing and a miss, strike three without stumbling? Great. But everyone I've worked with here, and even the people in the past, Monaco, Mauer, Will Fleming, It's high character guys who are going to put in the work and just be easy to work with. I'm surprised as I go up, you think people in the major leagues, oh, maybe they're divas, or maybe they're, ooh, that's a big personality, watch out for them. It's all about being easy to work with, and it's hard to be in a bad mood when you're here and just talking baseball, but it's important to make connections and just have good impressions on people, and that just comes with being a naturally, hardworking person who people get along with, and Cooper's a great example of that.
And lastly, before we wrap up, Cooper is a shining example of his rise to where you are right now is not the norm by any means. For an aspiring broadcaster, for aspiring sports personality, what is some advice that you could give to that student and to that student, that kid, even if they're not going to Syracuse or they're not going to one of the big Northwesterns of these broadcast schools that just kind of pump out these different people? What is some advice that you would have for an aspiring?
Yeah, I think I wish I knew earlier in my career that the word networking isn't as scary as it sounds. For me, when I was in college, coming out and trying to get a job, I thought networking meant I had to somehow make friends with the head of ESPN or the head of NBC Sports and get them to like me. There's no path to that for most people. What networking actually is that can help you move up is just being nice to whoever you work with, being a good teammate to your broadcast partner on the air. Most of my opportunities have come from fellow broadcasters that I've worked with. Jay Burnham is a great broadcaster for us. He and I crossed paths in AA. We got to talking. We were in similar situations, and we just became friends. Then he just found out that I did hockey as well. He became the head of broadcasting at UMass, didn't know hockey. He does basketball, football, everything else. He's like, hey, I need a hockey guy. You do hockey, right? Can we give you a try here? Got an opportunity, and it stuck. And there are dozens of people in Boston who want to be calling UMass college hockey. So that led to doing it with the entire league. Jay was my big recommendation to Hockey East, so you got to hire this guy to call these games. And so it's not really – I didn't call the league, Hockey East, and say, hey, please hire me. It was just making good impression, being a good friend, and now every chance I get, I'm trying to help Jay Burnham get a big league job too, because he got me where I'm at, I think, in a lot of different ways. So it's networking, yes, that's how I got a few jobs early that helped, but it's not the way you would think, right? I didn't say, Mr. Burnham, please give me a job. It was, you're a good guy, I want to help you out. And now the big thing for me is, as they say, paying it forward. Especially with all the young, hardworking staff we have here. I know more people than I did when I was, 22 years old, so I'm trying to help people out in that same way. And that's kind of how the industry works, and it's something I didn't really realize when I was entering it. So be open to people, be nice, because you never know who might be in a position to help you later on.
Yeah, I think that's great. But yeah, I think that's one of the special things about working here in Worcester and for the WooSox is that we have the ability to network and just work with people that we know are going to be moving on to bigger and better things at some point. As Dr. Charles says it, he considers the Worcester Red Sox the Harvard, the MIT of the sports industry in that
Nice.
We are a launching pad for a lot of people. We have, different employees, whether that's front office and sales and those type of things. If your aspirations are to go to, the professional, the big four professional leagues, like we are consistently pumping people out into just different roles, whether that is a personality, whether that is, just front office and management and things like that. So I feel fortunate. I know from what we've heard from you is you feel extremely fortunate. Dave feels fortunate.
I'm fortunate.
Yeah, yes,
I'm extremely fortunate.
I'm fortunate to know Dave.
Yes.
What it all comes back
Of
to.
course,
And
we all are.
I always tell people, if you can do even 1 year in minor league baseball, all the different things that are thrown at you from a responsibility standpoint and task management, it qualifies you for almost any job I can think of in the world. So it's a launching pad for not just sports, too, if they want to try a different career. So shout out to the Woo.
Shout out to the Woo. Well, Tyler, thank you very much for joining us. We are going to go prep for another game, and then we have a whole slate of games next week. So this will come out on Monday morning at 8 a.m. We will have games on Tuesday, Wednesday, 2 on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday here at Polar Park. And just lastly, before we go, I just want to say one thing is that I think we are all very appreciative of your willingness to be working with all of us and just to be able to make every single one of our production team feel appreciated. We love at the end of games, you're always, you, Jim, Cooper, are always right there to say thank you to our production staff, and you name out our production staff. And I know in the control room that means a lot to everyone in there, and we feel very fortunate to work with you and to be able to put on a show every night that we are here at Polar Park. And
Well, thank you guys, because we have the easy job. We just say what's going on. Everything that goes on behind the scenes. I do have a bit of a production background, and you guys make it look so much easier than it actually is. Sometimes people are doing a technical director and actual director at the same time, which blows my mind.
Ryan Sheehan,
Ryan Sheehan last night.
Mike DeMar, shout out. It's incredible. And yes, the resources help, and the brand new ballpark and facilities and equipment help. But I interned at Nesson back in 2010, and the first thing a producer told me is, if you want to be on air and you don't thank your production team all the time, they're not going to work hard to make you guys look and sound good, because you're nothing without those guys. And he was totally right. So gotta say thank you every time, because we mean it.
Well, thank you, Tyler Murray. And thank you always to Dave Leonardi, fearless producer.
Thanks, Dave.
You're welcome.
And I'm Brendan Black, and this is WooSox Insider. And again, if we want to come to any WooSox games, we've got 7 coming up in the next 6 days. So be sure to go to WooSox.com or call at what number, Dave?
508-500-8888. Almost forgot for a second.
Yeah.
Again, that is 508-500-8888.
Perfect. Love it. Once again, thank you, Tyler Murray. And for WooSox Insider, I'm Brendan Black, Dave Leonardi. Thank you all, and we will see you next week.